What's up, motivators? Welcome back. It's Kevin. This is Pure Bullfit. Today, I thought I'd talk to you guys a little bit... What? My hair? You don't like my hair?
Nobody cares what you think.
What can I say? When wifey wants to play with your hair, you let wifey play with your hair. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is a little bit more about my power building program. I wanted to clear a few things up. I didn't invent power building. This is not an idea that I came up with. Apparently there are some folks out there who hadn't been introduced to the idea before. And I even had somebody link me a video from Greg Doucette talking about the same subject saying, hey, he stole your idea. No, I didn't come up with this. This is a pretty old idea. It's pretty basic, honestly. I think the first time I personally encountered it was watching Mike O'Hearn back in my young, naive days when even I thought Mike O'Hearn was natural. But hey, we all got to start somewhere. So I thought I'd share a little bit of footage with you guys today, show you my first day of training. Not my first official day, I'm gonna start it next week, but I did want to work on a few things, work out a few last minute kinks before I started the program in earnest, give you some information behind my personal philosophy on why I chose the reps and sets that I did, why I ordered things the way that I did, and a little bit about exercise selection. So if that is something that interests you, you want to get big and strong at the same time, give it a watch. Head on over to the Facebook group if you're interested in the program. Check it out. It's free to anybody who wants to check it out. You all could be my guinea pigs. We'll all find out what we can accomplish together. But before we get into any of that, I have a quick question for you guys. As you may have noticed from my previous videos, I take it easy on the commenters. I save the vitriol, the insults, the call-outs, and the clapbacks for the content creators that richly deserve it. The people who are misleading, giving bad information, incomplete information, and trying to fleece naive people out of their money. They're the ones that richly deserve it, so they're the ones I aim that stuff at. But some commenters, be they trolls or otherwise, you're making it pretty hard. And I've been considering for some time doing a video on dumb shit commenters say. Now, of course, I would blank out anybody's name because I don't need you guys, my community, fighting my battles for me. I don't need anybody harassed. If somebody says something in the comment section that you disagree with, you're more than welcome to disagree with them. Just keep it civil. I don't like bullies. I don't like harassment. Public figures, we have to put up with that shit. It's what we signed up for. But the average person wading into a comment section with their elbows flared wide and their invisible lat syndrome, they just drank too much Kool-Aid, all right? The sugar's gone to their brain and they need a little help. But sometimes they make it pretty hard not to make fun of them. So if that's the kind of thing that you guys would like to see, as some other content creators out there have put out, let me know in the comment section below. But until I have that question thoroughly answered by your comments, we're gonna go ahead with an informational video on pure power building by Pure Bullfit, my philosophy, how I would approach it, and how we might be able to help you get bigger and stronger at the same time.
Now, what you guys might notice right off the bat, if you've read the program, squats are not on day one of pure power building. So why am I doing them? Well, I woke up in a great deal of lower back pain on account of the herniated discs I have in my lumbar spine. Now, this is not a tip I'd recommend for everybody, but I found some years ago that it works for me, that if I do pause squats a few hours before I do deadlift, I get through the session much better. I recover faster and I tweak my lower back much less frequently. I don't know why it works. Maybe it's pre-activation, but it does for me. Again, I wouldn't recommend this for everybody, but today I used 225 pounds to 385 pounds recorded here for 4 to 5 second pause reps. I jumped up to 425 pounds for a single standard rep of the back squat, and then I dropped back down to 405 pounds where I did manage to complete a 5-second pause rep. But my dumbass forgot to press record, so there's only one witness. It was such a grinder though that I didn't want to make a second attempt and negatively affect my deadlift session later in the day. So maybe sometime in the future, I'll give that a second go if that's something that people are interested in seeing. So pure power building is about the idea of marrying strength training and hypertrophy, getting muscle size and strength at the same time. Now, the idea of specificity as it pertains to strength training and fitness is that you get better at what you train at, and the more specifically you train for a individual thing, the better you're going to be, the better your results are going to be for that specific thing. So if you want to get really good at the bench press, do more bench press. Conversely, that means that if you're trying to marry two primary goals, even if they overlap a bit, you're not going to get the absolute maximal effects you could out of either. If all I cared about was the weight on the bar, the number on the bar, I would just do a peaking program. If all I cared about was hypertrophy and aesthetics and looking good, I would do a bodybuilding program. But I have desires on both ends now that I'm coming out of my bear mode phase. With all the strength gains that I have been making lately, I haven't really been concerned about tracking my intake too closely. I've been okay with getting a little bit fluffy, putting on a little bit of body fat, because I'm finally within striking distance of hitting that 405-pound bench press and that 500-pound squat, goals I have been chasing since I started training with a barbell at about 34 years old. So I'm making great ground, but I don't like how 260 pounds feels on my body, and I don't like particularly how it looks, to be perfectly honest. So moving into next year, I'm really going to want to focus on my body composition. And I think a power building program like this is the perfect bridge between finishing up what I want to do strength-wise and starting to address what I want to do body composition-wise. Were I to simply switch over to a bodybuilding style right now, not that I ever plan to compete because I don't, going to be straightforward with that right now, focusing on the aesthetic, if I were to do that right now, well, I would start losing strength just shy of hitting those lifetime goals, and I don't want to do that. So this pure power building program is going to be my bridge between those two goals. Now, moving on to the actual session, the actual day one of pure power building, it starts off with deadlift. Why? Because everybody else is benching on Mondays. Now, I have finally decided to take the advice to switch to sumo stance for the deadlift, not because it's easier. It is definitely more awkward. I don't like the way that it feels, but I've been told repeatedly that it's going to be better on my lower back, and I really have to consider what training volume on my lower back is going to do. It's one of the primary reasons that I've got such skinny legs and such a big upper body. I've got decent strength in my legs. I can squat 460 pounds with pretty good speed. And I've deadlifted over 500. I think 530 was the best deadlift I ever had, but it was with admittedly pretty poor form. So I'm trying to work on those things and be better at it, but the requisite training volume, I'm just not going to be able to endure with the damage I have in my spine. So as you can see here, these are not perfect reps. I am not sharing with you what I am already good at. I am still figuring this out. Where's my foot position supposed to be? Why does it feel so damn awkward? Where are my hips supposed to start? I really need to straighten out my left arm. And as you see here, when I get to 405 pounds, I get this weird cramp in my right pec. I was not expecting that at all, and it cut my set short, despite the fact that I felt like I had 3 more reps in me, which is really odd because without a belt, I can usually only get 2, maybe 3 reps with 405 pounds lifting conventional. So there's obvious power bleed there, there's potential there, and I'm looking forward to what I'm able to accomplish. But 2 reps at 405 is where I decided to stop for the day. After tearing my pec in 2018, anytime I feel a hard spasm or a cramp, I stop. I don't mess around anymore. I can't deal with another tear. I've already torn a teres major, already tore my pec. I'm not looking to add anything to that list. I'm sure you guys can feel me there. So as I said in a previous video, the first movement is the compound movement. We're training force production, we're training strength, our sets of 5-5, 3-3-3, with the last set being as many reps as possible to determine Wendler's 5-3-1 style if you go up the next week or you stay where you're at. Following that, there'll be a couple of exercises with rep ranges of 10 to 12 to volitional failure, meaning that next rep is going to be absolute failure. You won't be able to achieve it. To really start working those antagonistic muscle groups, or in this case, an upper movement to complement the lower body movement. These are full body sessions in the same way that Eric Helms or a guy like Jeff Nippard would describe it, in that we're working the whole body, but not necessarily every muscle group for a certain number of sets. Every routine. I don't think that I would be able to handle that amount of training volume and recover from it. I don't think that anybody trying to train naturally is going to be able to work every muscle group 4 times a week and be able to recover from that adequately. Now, looking at the program, you'll see that the remaining exercises are actually 3 sets of 20 to failure. Now, a lot of folks might say that's not an effective range for training strength, and you'd be absolutely correct. But by this point in each routine, we're actually focusing on hypertrophy. And it's been demonstrated and borne out through research that you can generate just as much hypertrophy with 30% of your 1 rep max as you can with 80% of your 1 rep max if you train to failure. So why are we going to use weights that are so low? Well, after training a very heavy compound movement and a moderate compound movement with moderate volume, we have to think about the cumulative stress that we're putting on the joints, the ligaments, and the tendons. And if we're focusing in the latter half of the routines purely on hypertrophy, on increasing the cross-sectional area of muscle tissue and muscle cells, we don't really need to be focusing on high intensity or high weight and ignoring the effect that it might have on our joints. So if we get the same effect using a lighter weight, as long as we train to failure, let's go ahead and use that lighter weight later in the routines, save our joints. If you're not taking care of your joints, you're not really going to be able to train to full capacity. In regard to specific exercise selection, particularly in the hypertrophy sections of the program, really just swap out exercises you're not comfortable with. In the case of the back extension, I really like the reverse hyper. In the case of barbell curls, I really like the preacher curl. So I use those. As long as it's moving the muscle tissue in the joint through a similar range of motion and you're able to train to failure, feel free to swap out exercises, pick similar exercises. I tried to give enough selection to hit all of the muscles with sufficient volume, with sufficient stress in order to get them to grow, but it is by no means written in stone that you have to do specific exercises in a specific order. I agree with Dr. Brad Schoenfield that there's no such thing as a perfect exercise. There are exercises that are best suited to given situations and people, and I think you should take your own personal circumstances into account when you are trying to decide what exercise selection should be. So if you see a curl on the program, realize I want you to train biceps for that recommended number of sets and rep range and attempt to take each of those to volitional failure. For instance, I didn't plan on using this ab machine here, but both of the cables were taken up by a couple of guys who I didn't want to interrupt while they were jamming on their chest session doing cable flies. So I relegated myself to using this machine that I don't particularly fit in very well, and I'm sorry to trigger you, gravity transformation, but I'm not leaving all my gains on the table because I decided to use this resistance for my ab work as opposed to a standard crunch or any of the other things like hanging leg curls that you might have suggested. This is a perfectly adequate resistance training machine for your abdominals if you adjust it correctly and if you try and move through a full range of motion. And if you guys have been following me, you know I'm a fan of Jeff Cavaliere, so don't be surprised that you're finding face pulls in my program. This is my personal favorite variation, but if you just can't bring yourself to do them, go ahead and do external rotations. All I want you to do is make sure you hit your rotator cuff. It's important. We do a lot of shoulder work and compound movements involving the shoulder in this program, so just make sure you're taking care of your rotator cuff. So hopefully I managed to answer some of the questions you may have about the purpose, the role of this program, how it might fit, if it's appropriate for you. But if you have any remaining questions, don't be shy. Go ahead and ask me in the comment section below.
All right, that's it. That's the video for today. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button. If you didn't like it, there's a button for that too. Either way, let me know in the comment section below. But be careful, you might just be signing up to feature in a future episode. If you want to see more of this content and you're not yet subscribed, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that notification button while you're at it so you never miss a video. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and go fit yourself.
Yeah, baby.